Hello everyone and welcome back to Netflix Football HD. The World Cup is well underway, but is it as attractive as it used to be? Now I've spoken about why this potentially might be the worst World Cup that has ever happened because of a variety of reasons. But tonight is not just that night because the heavyweights, Brazil, go up against Morocco, who are their own, let's say, wonders of the African subcontinent. And today we are not only going to discuss about how Brazil are going to play, we are going to deep dive into their tactics, how Ancelotti wants them lined up, whether they would play with a proper striker or a false nine, how they would be lining up in possession and out of possession, what would be their pressing structure would be, and ultimately will they be able to win the tournament. Now Brazil, if I talk about Brazil has been one of my favorites. It's something of a lineage when you talk about Brazil, that when it comes along, since the early onset of 2002s, I was passed over the tradition from my father. Basically, watching Brazil meant having fun because all the superstars, and if you talked about football, you always remembered about Brazil. And stars that has actually graced us with the likes of an R9, the one that I am having on the back of the jersey right now, the likes of a Ronaldinho, the likes of a Kaká, the likes of a Rivaldo, and if you go further back, the likes of a Zico, likes of a Pele, likes of a Romario, there has always been that superstar presence in the Brazilian national team. Now this year, I'm a bit skeptical about them because number one, if you try and find hard in that Brazil squad, you would definitely be lacking. It would definitely be lacking of that kind of a superstar, as they would say, because right now I think Ancelotti wants to focus on a team game, but I am skeptic of Ancelotti's tactics because there's this unique thing to say about it, right? That let's say we've always talked about Ancelotti in his Madrid days, that you need a big name manager to handle the egos in the dressing room. Now, if I look and if I sort around the Brazil team sheet, there's probably one name that stands out who has the potential to be recognized as a world superstar, and that is none other than Vinícius Jr. He, in this season with Mbappe, the last two seasons with Mbappe, we have seen him fall off a bit because Mbappe has been the main spotlight. And it's always been of a one-trick pony in these past two seasons where he's going to get the ball, he's trying to dribble, because he's not that kind of a player that would eventually try and not take on his man and pass the ball back. You would see him taking on his man time and again and he would fail. That is what infuriates me about Vinícius Jr. But still, he has that X factor to go about it. And to talk about the others in the team, you see potential for Vinícius Jr, who has the potential to get you off your feet. Neymar is there. Neymar's inclusion, I'll talk about Neymar's inclusion in the rest of the video, but don't see anyone pulling the strings. Casemiro's stellar season with United, but does he have the legs to overcome a long season and then the World Cup that is going to be excruciating in this temperature, in this climate? And overall, if you see the right wing, there's Raphinha. Of course, he had an injury-prone season, and it is a question mark whether he would be able to showcase his top talents in the world stage. Now, right now, I have got my screen ready. Let me adjust my chair a bit. Yep. I have got my screen ready and it should be visible in 3, 2, 1. Yep. You expect Brazil, I have the tactical tab with me. You expect Brazil to line up in this kind of a formation. It's a 4-2-2 formation that we have seen past in the friendlies that the Brazilians had. And you'd see a Vinícius Jr, a Paqueta. Vinícius Jr, of course, is the number 9. Playing the number 9, I don't know. We'll talk about that. But you see Lucas Paqueta, they're taking over what was supposed to be Neymar's position in that lineup. You'd see Raphinha over here. You'd see Vinícius Jr over here. You'd see a Casemiro and a Bruno Guimaraes. But what questions that is, does the likes of a Sandro, an Alexandro, or a Danilo, if you go back to FIFA 17, these players were the top dogs. You go back to FIFA 17, these players were the top dogs, but a Sandro, and whenever I say a Sandro, I get to a Tonali. An Alexandro or a Danilo would definitely be not amongst the world's elite fullbacks that you had. You see, I don't expect a Sandro Tonali to bomb up and down the pitch. You can expect him to cover these half spaces. That he'll do because he has had that experience. You'd see a Danilo often covering back and the defense line shifting, and they'll have this kind of a three-man midfield where you would definitely see Casemiro going up. I'll go back to the midfield a bit later, but let's focus on the back line, because win a World Cup, as the mighty Sir Alex always said, that you would definitely need to have that presence in defense. Now, starting in defense, what we expect is going to be Gabriel Magalhaes and Marquinhos. You would expect to see them actually being that front men in defense. And to talk about that, right? Gabriel and Marquinhos, they met in the Champions League final. They've had stellar seasons themselves. And I was having this interesting debate with Kunalji the other day that Brazil are going to rely on set pieces. Do you think that Brazil will be relying on set pieces at this point of time, because Casemiro is there, a Gabriel is there, a Marquinhos is there, and like an Alexandro or even a Danilo is very decent with their head as well. I don't like who. If I talk about set pieces, you need an expert delivery. Now, who is going to be that expert deliverer in that Brazil squad? It remains to be seen. But then again, shift across the back line. Oops. Let me go back. Yeah. So Marquinhos will be there, and you expect him to be that number one ball playing defender in this squad. Gabriel will be lurking and trying to cut off all centre back up, like what all centre backs do. Remain in behind, because this is the formation on paper. And if I go with the formation that will be happening when they are in possession, let's shuffle around a bit. So you can expect a 3-2-5 in attack. So you'd expect a Lucas Paqueta to be there, a Cunha to be there. Will Cunha play false nine? That still remains the question. Head over your answers in the poll, whether you think if Cunha is going to play that false nine role and if he is going to play that effectively. Let me just switch things about. Suppose one of the fullbacks, so Gabriel is left-footed. If I put this into question, you would see Casemiro, you would see probably a Bruno Guimaraes covering those channels. You'd see a Casemiro here, a Paqueta dropping down, and Vinicius and Raphinha going there. So this is what Brazil will mostly look like in possession, where they will try to make use of this free man here. Cunha will drop deep and try to form those triangles and those like overloads in midfield. He would be that ball carrier and he would be that finisher going up top, or he would be the one to link up with a Vinícius Jr, trying to play that final pass in between. But now, if I say Raphinha is going to play in this channel, we've seen a tendency of Gabriel, and he has that in his locker, that Gabriel is going to shoot one long diagonal over to Raphinha, and he'll probably wait over in the wings because his pass to Vinicius. Now, if you are adept with the concept of overload, isolate, like if I explain in terms of how Ruben Amorim was trying to play, you would see these kind of things, that whenever the left wing back, essentially Vinicius will try to give that depth. So often Vinicius would come down, have that ball, and definitely either he would mark a straight diagonal over the top over here, or he would make a pass to Casemiro. Probably they will play in close proximity, and that one long ball over the top would suffice in that transition in attack. Now, what is the role of a Matheus Cunha here? Matheus Cunha will lurk around in these half spaces. Now, what is a half space? Check out my video on Zone 14, expertly explained by Ranjit Bajaj sir. And to top on his intellects in that subject, and half space is basically pockets between the central defenders, space left by the between the two central defenders that is there. Acuna will roam around in these spaces. Raphinha will try to link up within, and Brazil probably will try to make use of that flexibility that they have. Either they would try to isolate their opposition fullbacks, because let's say like there would be a Nus Mazraoui, and I'll come to the Morocco team a bit later, but for now a Nus Mazraoui and a Hakimi would be present trying to block off these spaces. Now this is imperative that a Vinícius Jr does not always commit there, because a foot race between Vinicius and Hakimi, as exciting as it is, on current form, until Vini puts out something of his magic hat, we'll see more often than not Vinicius getting tackled, and the stellar season that Hakimi has had for both club and country. I expect Hakimi to have win that duel. And Ancelotti, I think, would know that. He's an experienced coach. No matter how much I try to diss him, Ancelotti will probably pull something out of a rabbit's hole, and we'd probably see that a Vinícius Jr often coming in through the channels, and maybe a Matheus Cunha going wide. Now, why I say this, because Vini has also played there in Real Madrid for under Ancelotti, and Casemiro or a Cruz will probably find that link up between him. So you would expect these two to be interchanging a lot. Cunha or a Vini Jr will be interchanging a lot, and you expect them to play in close spaces, have that 1-2s, all that Brazilian samba flair that would be there in attendance. Now, what about the role of a Lucas Paqueta? A Lucas Paqueta, I don't know about his abilities, because Lucas Paqueta, an Alexandro, a Danilo will almost essentially be those players that are playing in the Brasileirão. My tongue is gone. Will be playing in the Brasileirão, and I don't know if they would be able to match the top quality opposition that they have. I don't expect Danilo to go up and down for 90 minutes. What we expect of Brazilian fullbacks, we have been blessed with a Cafu, we have been blessed with a Roberto Carlos, we have been blessed with a Marcelo, we have been blessed with a Maicon. Seen over the World Cups how attacking minded they can be. But for once, I am seeing that Brazilian having essentially defensive fullbacks that goes around the tradition of having attacking bombers through the left. Would this be a paradigm shift in Brazilian attacking force? Write down your thoughts on the comments if you think that this would be a change in their tactics, and not maybe Brazilian being Brazilians, love to attack but leaving holes in gaps. We've seen that a lot of times before. I do not need to remind the chat of that Germany match to the 2014 World Cup, but you expect these holes to be plugged. And where I was pissed off about the team selection is that a Bruno Guimaraes, as good as he is, and a Casemiro, as good as he is, both are exactly the same type of players. How would you get the best out of them? We've seen an Ederson call up in late, because Wesley has been injured, and probably there have been rumors that he was playing the right back role. Now, essentially, if I show you, if you put Ederson in that position, probably his jersey number is going to be 2. Ignore the jersey numbers for now. If you put him in that position, right, we expect Sandro Tonali. Why am I saying Sandro Tonali? If you expect Alexandro to be in that quartet over there, Raphinha here, let's fans out. Cunha here, Vinicius here. These, if you see heat maps, these would be the most expected positions of what they would have, of what Brazil would have in their arsenal, and what they would look in possession. And what that allows, right, is if you expect a Casemiro to be the deepest, or maybe a Bruno Guimaraes to be the deepest in alternations, because they're exactly the same player. Let's start with Casemiro here. And Ederson can actually go in and block that midfield. Now, what this prevents, right, is you'd have counters. People will try to sit back and playing football against Brazil in that tempo is always dangerous. To break that rhythm, probably we'll see a lot of challenges, players being targeted and tackled, and the opposition trying for a quick break. Now, what Ederson in that position, in that limited role, he'll not be bombing up and down. Let's face it, none of the Brazilian fullbacks will be bombing up and down. Ederson gives you stability, gives you that ounce of an extra layer of protection across the defense line. Because he is tall, he'll add that threat to the set pieces, and he'll also win those balls that would be targeted over the top. So a ball from here, there to here would be cut off by Ederson. He's fast, he's got duels, and he has, like, we talk about how Ederson is Fred but taller. Like, how much I have seen Ederson play, I've seen through highlights that as it is, but Ederson will have a mistake or two in him. I'm sure about it. He'll have a mistake or two in it. It is essentially his first tournament, and I have not remembered Ederson on those big nights because let's face it. These games will be, of course, off the metal, and you need immense mental strength and fortitude actually go and make a difference in these. And while we underestimate the impact of fullbacks in the modern game, you would definitely understand why if I show you this position. Let's talk about Morocco. Make you understand. Yep. If I load this over, yep. So if I line up Moroccans here, this is the danger man. This is player. Saibari has been linked with Bayern Munich, whatever you call it. Not that Jamie Carragher kind of a moment, but this player smells danger. And of course, Brahim Diaz, who's been the star of the AFCON. Hakimi will play here. There's no doubt about it. Hakimi will play here. And Nus Mazraoui again going to a back three because coaches love their defensive protection, and them in possession will almost certainly look like this. Sabari will stretch. You see Ezal Zuli in this position. Sorry if I get the pronunciations a bit wrong. I'm not very acquainted with Moroccan pronunciation, but you'll see him occupy these half space channels where an Ederson in this position would be essential. If Raphinha will be tracking back here, but you'd expect this position to be their most dangerous. Talk about Brahim Diaz, probably we'd see a man marking probably a Bruno Guimaraes or an Alexandro in a zonal mark situation, because him in this half space is danger. He is both footed. He can show you left, he can go right, he can show left, he can go right. And like, suppose he starts off in this position. We've seen that wonderful goal in the Champions League where he almost single-handedly dribbled across and then he scored. We can expect this on a regular basis if he is not kept in tandem. And if I say that, let's actually treat this. So if this would be this would be the defensive line, Brahim Diaz essentially occupying these half spaces, and you often see Saibari also dropping down, and they'll keep probably either of these two up top, whoever has this open. Ezal Zuli, you'd see Ezal Zuli in this position, and an El Kabi occupying that spot where he would definitely be used as kind of a target man for having those second balls, and they'll pounce. They'll accurately pounce over any possession. Like Bono, we've seen Bono's distribution. Bono's distribution in recent times is definitely a very good distributor of the football. And you'll expect a midfield battle where Brazilians would need to be on their mark. El Anusi would be roaming around in this midfield. He'll be everywhere. Christian Ogard will be there. This will be Hakimi essentially here. Where is the space? You tell me where the space lies. Occasionally, you would see that a channel ball right from there, Brazil attacking. If you consider Brazilians in this half, Brazilians attacking through here, you'll see that channel ball. They are blocked here, and suddenly they counter. Suddenly, men breaking forward and they counter. And as much as we love attacking fullbacks, Brazil probably would be smart to have one defensive fullback who would cover these spaces, because if you do not keep Brahim Diaz in tandem, right, Brahim Diaz would cause mayhem. I want your thoughts on the chat, guys. Do you think Brahim Diaz would be the man of the match? Because definitely, if you ask me about it, Brahim Diaz has got the metal. He is a Real Madrid player, and we have seen his impact off the bench. We have seen how impactful he is for his national side, and this is the biggest stage of all. Do let me know your comments on the chat whether you think Brahim Diaz would steal the show tonight. Just out. Yeah. Now, let's talk about Cunha a bit. Matheus Cunha, if Brazil are on their defensive lines, Raphinha will be out wide and trying to pull those strings. Raphinha will not be the finisher. He'll be that third, like late arrival in that box, but he will not essentially be your striker. Now, Brazil have got Igor Thiago in there. Cunha's presence is very vital. Like there was this topic where Kaká was talking about how important Matheus Cunha could be in this Brazilian lineup. In Atletico Madrid days or in his Leipzig days, we have seen Cunha lead the line. In his Wolves days, he has always been the number 10. Trequartista, or maybe even as an enganche or a support striker role, where he would play with the striker and he'd go neck and neck. You see, a Matheus Cunha would definitely be imperative in build-up. Let's talk about how he played there for Manchester United this time, because I have watched Cunha closely. While he can be mercurial, but on his day, Cunha is a menace. Presses, fights, he jumps, he does everything you want from a player. He's a team player. You would often see Cunha drop deep down till this much, causing the overloads. And what that would enable, right, is because either of the two defenders would have to come wrong, or one of the midfielders would be taken out of the game. Now, Casemiro, sometimes you'd see going through this channel because Casemiro is excellent at identifying spaces. We call him uncle, but he has that brain to think about how and when to receive the ball. If you remember, if Premier League watchers or Manchester United fans know about Casemiro, if you recall back to the assist that Casemiro made to Cunha. So Cunha was playing here. Casemiro just had that half space, was in the half space. Cunha was coming down from here, jumped, won the ball back, just a small layup to here, and Cunha just slotted that goal. Cunha's first goal for Manchester United colours, and it was excellent. Casemiro, with his playmaking abilities and Casemiro's heading prowess, you'd expect either of these two midfielders who would go up front. You'd expect Casemiro. You'd expect Uncle to be there. Now, Raphinha would be mostly taking the set pieces, maybe a Vinícius Jr from this side. And if I talk about their set piece prowesses, see Gabriel here, you'd see a Marquinhos here. I do not know if Ederson would start. He has been experimented with there. Only time will tell what is cooking under Carlos' sleeves. Or even a Bruno Guimaraes taking that, and Vini there. Raphinha probably here. If I say the corner is going to be taken from that side, Cunha here. Now look at this chat. Does this fill you with confidence? Now Moroccans, they break heavily. Expect a Hakimi surge down this side all throughout the game. All throughout the game, Hakimi will be a menace, toying and twisting with the fullbacks, and like Vini has to do a job. Vini has to do a splendid job. So Vini would probably be positioned here, but if has that space, he will the panther, the bloody panther, and he will break with all guns blazing like a comet in grease lightning. If there are transitions in situations like this, these players will not be the fastest to get back. What is essential is that Brazilians leave the two fullbacks on the halfway line. And again, they do not like fill me with confidence if in and around the break, Brazilians would able to be counter that prowess of counter that counter or a transition that Moroccans have. Suddenly the ball goes from here. You expect Vinicius, who's not the best one-on-one defenders, and you'd see a streak of red flash waiting inside the box. And you essentially cannot leave your players in this position. Casemiro would be there, Paqueta would be there. What do you do? If I am Carlo Ancelotti, I would keep Casemiro here. I would keep Gabriel, the three most likeliest to get the headers on the ball. Bruno Guimaraes would be there. A Vinicius on the halfway line. Alexandro in his position. And Ederson. Let's start with... where is the defender? Where is Danilo? Danilo bhai? Yeah. Or maybe they do not take corners and maybe they keep Bruno Guimaraes here. They take it with Paqueta. They take it with Vinicius. Either way, that would be worthy to see. We expect these players to just bounce back on the counters. Cunha that is the importance of that Cunha squad in that presence. Because you would see him jumping up and down, up and down, up and down entire match. Matheus Cunha has to work his socks off. While he is prone to muscular injuries, let's see what other opportunities that they have. And Igor Thiago, who would essentially a box striker and nothing else. Maybe if I replace Paqueta, where is Paqueta? Yeah, a Paqueta with Igor Thiago, who has had a fantastic season in the Premier League. Igor Thiago, if they start, and if I redesign, but this looks a lot more balanced. This looks a lot more balanced that you have where Cunha can go here, Vinicius can toy, and Raphinha will almost certainly try to make those diagonal runs, what he's been so excellent at. We've seen Raphinha play mostly on the left wing because of a Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal is undroppable from this team. But Marcus Rashford has played this season for Barcelona because Raphinha has been injured. How much of an impact would he have from right wing? I know old habits die hard because Raphinha was fantastic when he was at Leeds. He is someone who will give you that burst of pace. Someone will give you that creativity and that shot-taking ability. But Nus Mazraoui and the Moroccan defense will already have that marked. Now, this is where an Igor Thiago comes in. Now, if Brazil decide that Alexandro, who is 35-36, suddenly has gone back to FIFA 17, and Sandro the bombing runs he used to make, and if they decide to do that maybe once in every 4 minutes, conserve his legs, probably see this shift right here, Casemiro here, Acuna in that half space to play those one-time balls, or a Vinicius in that. So expect Igor Thiago to be that main man, to be that one who would head the balls in. I'm doing the heading animation because we do not have much hope of headers in the world football these days other than defenders, but he is someone who will give you that box presence. Now it is like, I do not know if the same would happen to the right back channel. Let me know in the comments if you think that Brazil can have that like a target man in the box and would play well. And that does not especially fill me with confidence because you just have slowish midfield and Cunha running through. Because Cunha would be dangerous in transitions, and if you retain him right, you retain Cunha, and if his legs are washed out by, let's say, the 50th minute or the 55th minute mark, he would not have those dangerous runs or the dribbles that he'd make. He'd not come, and the flip side of it is that he'll not cover that much in defense, which often leaves this hole in midfield. This is an area of immense concern. If I was Ancelotti, I would be biting my hair off. I'm not talking about my hair. But Ancelotti needs this needs to be a question for Don Carlo. How does he solve this problem? Because I've never seen a Carlo Ancelotti team doing shunting. I've spoken about shunting in my previous videos. Now, that essentially means whenever there is a transition, your center backs actually go there and shunt like a train. Would a Gabriel do that? He's done that for Arsenal, but that would leave space because you would need someone like a Declan Rice or maybe a Christian Nogard or even a Zubimendi who would cover their tracks. Are Bruno Guimaraes and Casemiro in that tandem enough to have those legs and add steel in midfield? It is yet to be seen. Leave your comments on the chats if you think that Brazilian midfield of a Casemiro and a Bruno Guimaraes is going to shock everyone and be one of the best, or are they going into mediocrity? And we will probably, like, if you ask my thoughts about it, yeah, it is shocking how much predictable Brazil are. They try to attack through the wings, either of Raphinha and Vinicius, and you'd see the heat maps, either of like, they try to progress their play through channels. They'd overload to isolate. I do not know how much they would be able to do that, but that is definitely the top concern that we have. And if we talk about how Brazil would line up out of possession, now this is where it gets interesting, because this is a perspective I think Dan has been talking about. And if I go back with Lucas Paqueta, who had started, you'd expect this formation. Brazil will just sit. If the ball is in starting, like if you're trying to press them high, he will go high. I mean Brazil, you can see the jersey. Brazil will go high up on the pitch, try to win those balls. But what then? We've seen Brazil be very aggressive with their presses. We've seen the vertical transitions that have been there, the half space occupation, where interior midfielders operate between opposition lines, create passing lanes into the front three, allow runners to attack the box from deeper positions. We all know, we all know this. This is all bookish knowledge. Would Brazil have that magical spark? It depends on Paqueta. And as much as I've seen a Gabriel Martinelli, start with a Gabriel Martinelli, he'd act that verticality, act that pace, but I do not know about quality, but he's just been a Premier League winner. So Cunha and Vinicius would then play as a 4-2-2. Bruno Guimaraes here, Casemiro here, and this allows you to defend much better, because these three will then play this triangle, which is imperative. Raphinha going through here, Casemiro coming and being that late man in that box to finish, to head home, and maybe even a Marquinhos doing that shunting in midfield as you'd often expect. Now, Raphinha would essentially be very crucial on these positions. He would cut in, he would have the ball, and you'd expect those magnanimous shots that Raphinha have to be on. Like, he can shoot near post, he can shoot far post, but what he brings you is that work rate. And Anus Mazraoui would have his hands full in that Brazilian setup, while Acuna can exploit or be that extra man in the box. Gabriel Martinelli then has the opportunity to complement an Alex Sandro. He would run up and down the pitch the entirety of the match. Gabriel Martinelli would cut inside, and we'd seen how explosive he is, right? We'd seen how he'll complement Vinícius Jr. That is yet to be seen, because both, I think, are similar players of dribblers, but I do feel that Gabriel Martinelli is especially intelligent. He might not have the technical Brazilian flair, because I always classify him as more of an European winger, where he'd almost certainly take on his man where the chance of a take on is there, but he'd often pass back and recycle possession when there is not. So that allows Vinícius Jr. to have to conserve his legs, and more often, like, I do not want to say this, but you would always need to have that counter presence, and what this enables, right, is Vinicius and Raphinha, if you put Cunha here, to be in that spot. Vinicius, one long ball from over the top, and Marquinhos and Gabriel both are very well accustomed to play it. we'd see that essentially done, and Vinicius would have the pitch to roam. And then Hakimi would have a problem, because if you leave Vinicius, if Hakimi bombs forward, he would come back. But if he gets caught in possession, maybe Hakimi is trying to cross, Marquinhos heads away, falls to Casemiro, and that ball goes over the top. And Vinicius, a Gabriel Martinelli, and Raphinha coming through here, a Cunha coming through here. That is what I expect Brazil to be their most dominant, to exploit the positional transitions, to exploit the overloads, to create overloads and maintain those passing triangles. And then Brazilians in front of goal are always clinical, and you expect them to put the ball in the back of the net. Vinicius has scored goals, Cunha has scored goals, Raphinha can score goals, Martinelli has that amazingness in his locker. If I go back to Morocco a bit, now Hakimi, if the last transition that I talked about, Hakimi is here. Anus Mazraoui will often act now as, like, let's say, far-fetched that it sounds, he would try to be a libero. A libero is essentially the one mopping up, and it's a position, libero position has been derived from volleyball, where that is the one who is saving you. Libero would definitely, that is, yeah. A libero would definitely, and you'd see him sweep off. This, we've seen Nus Mazraoui say that right fullback is his most natural position. He'd mostly act as a tactical libero. We do not know what kind of a possession game Brazil would play, but a Mazraoui would definitely be there, acting as that one man who after every point of time would be there to mop up those balls. Hakimi here, and if I put in that transition and Brazil are attacking, this is the area of opportunity that I feel Brazil has to exploit. How would it happen? Overloads, overloads, and overloads. Play 1-2s, time and again, recycle position, play 1-2s, be brave on the ball. Ancelotti's teams has always been brave. They know Ancelotti is the man for the big occasion. Let's not forget that. But you need to be, Brazilians need to be brave on the ball. But can Alex Sandro bomb up and down the pitch? That lies a very primary question, because fullbacks are very important in this setup, both offensively and defensively, because they would need to create those partial overloads to have that excellence in that midfield transition. But the defense would definitely need to be mopping up, and you would need that presence, in that magic in that final third. So Cunha would be operating in these positions. Regardless, if he starts, Cunha would be playing from here. If he comes on the bench, Cunha would be occupying this entire slot, because we know he'd run his legs off. Now, how to negate Hakimi, Alex Sandro has to be stationary here, and a Gabriel Martinelli has to cover this channel. So basically, if we divide the football pitch into two halves, Alex Sandro has to be in this position, and this diagonal position, the half space, essentially Brahim Diaz would be occupying there. You would see those link-up plays very much. So Gabriel in this position has to be excellent. Brazilian defenders, Marquinhos has to be excellent. Casemiro has to come here. And that is danger, because the only, like, let's say, brilliant passer in that Brazilian team would be Casemiro from deep. And if he goes, he's letting this man loose. Do leave your comments on the chat, and do subscribe to the video if you are new to this channel. Do tip me your thoughts that if this is going to be how the match is going to be played, and if this is going to be how both the teams, Brazil and Morocco, going to line up in this first amazing clash at the World Cup. Now, the World Cup has been subjective. We've seen some below par matches, some okay matches, but what excited me about the most was how the South Koreans played. Lee Kang-in, excellent. That their defensive midfielder, forgot the name, People labeling him the Asian Vitinha were excellent, but the opposition was in question. Moroccans, they have this on and off kind of. Sometimes they can be as stubborn as my mother asking me to drink water every day, and sometimes they can be as loose. Let's not get into what as loose is. But you would need these three players if Brazil has to be one of the top dogs in this tournament. You would have to have these three players be that Ronaldo, Rivaldo kind of a situation where Cunha, Raphinha, and Vinicius has to play their best football of their lives. Have to track back. They have to be essential on like they have to be vivid on transitions, and they have to be clinical where it matters the most. I do feel Brazil will not have troubles navigating through the group stage, but when most of the teams would start facing troubles is when 48 becomes 32. That's when probably the trouble starts. And also, Brazil, if they plan to tire the opponent out through possession, the stadium temperatures would not help. And more how much we progress through the tournament, the fatigue will kick in. How much do you expect? Like Brazil, let's face it, a Carlo Ancelotti is not a Pep Guardiola. You would not see a ball recycle from here to here, back and forth. You'll not see that. Brazilians want to be exciting, but Carlo will bring that Italian stability that they always have. And that is why the selection of an Alexandro, of a Danilo, even when they're 35 years old, 35, 36 years old, Italian defenders has always been experienced and mid-30s in their age, where they have played. Like, I'm not saying a Paolo Maldini is Paolo Maldini, and Paolo Maldini will always forever remain Paolo Maldini. But you see the role that they bring. Paolo Maldini being a defensive fullback, even as the age progressed, he was still one of the best defensive fullbacks until the day he retired. Now, body fitness will always be an issue, but you always play through here. Football is a game you play through here. You cannot often be a Marcelo or David Luiz and everyone go like, okay, aaj Children's Day hai and we'll all go up and we'll all score. This is not the 1950s, my friend. You would need that stability. And Brazil has often been that cautious, never been that cautious, has seldom been that cautious. But right now, I do see this back of four, Ancelotti trying to build from that, being that iron wall. This would be stable. Halfway line, I do not think they would venture much forward other than the occasional chances. They would maintain the stability. Bruno Guimaraes and Casemiro would be the anchormen in that setup. They would always be covering these half space positions, which is the most important in modern day football. And you would often see Casemiro making those third. If there is a spell of possession, you bet your hat on it that Casemiro is going to be that last person in the box. Raphinha will have that freedom. Cunha will have that freedom. But Martinelli needs to be well disciplined. You cannot have a Gabriel Martinelli in that, like, he has to be vertical. He has to have that verticality in his game where he would probably a ball from Marquinhos, splitting ball from Marquinhos lands up here, and a Gabriel Martinelli would essentially need to be that man, or a Vinícius Jr. need to be that man where you'd start off those transitions. I do feel that Brazil would have it in them where they would obviously need to channel their discipline, because you need to build up from defense. That's what Carlo Ancelotti has done. You need to be excellent in midfield, winning those second balls that Brazil needs to do a lot in this system. And Vinícius Jr. would need to have his Ballon d'Or form recovered. If Vinicius wants to win the Ballon d'Or, he has to win the World Cup. There's no other way. The poor season that Real Madrid have, and high standards that they have this season, is classified as poor, that Papa Perez had to go and pull stunts of the extremist nature, convince everyone. But this definitely need highlighted. I'll leave you with that. The game is quite late in tonight. Let me check what matches do we have other than that, if I talk about it. So there's Qatar, Switzerland at 12:30, where we expect the Swiss Army, Swiss Knives to be excellent. Brazil, Morocco, 6:30, Haiti, Scotland, Lord McTominay. Hope you have a good World Cup, man. And then at 9:30 a.m. it's Australia, Turkey. I will try to watch that match because Arda Güler, I love Arda Güler and I love Kenan Yildiz. There's also Kokchu in that midfield. Do not go into the depths of that name. But Turkey can be one of those teams that can occasionally... We remember how Arda Güler actually sprung onto scene in the last Euros. He was fantastic. He was excellent. And I hope Turkey have a brilliant World Cup because they are a very good team to watch. Let's hope that tonight Brazilians become Brazilians. It has been more than 20 years since we have seen this shirt lift the World Cup. It has been a nightmare because the last World Cup, and I really hope that Brazil would go the distance, but game management was not their best friend and they lost out to Croatians, and Argentina of all teams had actually clinched that World Cup. Can Brazil do it? Leave me your thoughts in the comments. For now, I leave you for this video with the expectation that Brazil are going to have a very good World Cup. I hope so. I wish so. And let's hope they play exciting football. They play good football like we always remember the Brazilians do. This is me, Neil, leaving you with the prediction that Brazil are going to draw this match 1-1 because Moroccans are not going to have... This is not going to be a walk in the park for Brazil. Let's be honest about it. This is going to be tough. This is going to be a dogfight, and whoever wins that battle in midfield will be coming out as victors. Let's hope for a good match. With that, this is Neil bidding you a very happy World Cup, if I can say that. I'll be back in midweek analyzing the rest of the games. We have got far more good games coming up. Germany faced Curacao, and then there's Spain and England also to feature, as well as France, who we are all expect to see a very good World Cup of. I'll be bringing you all the actions, all the tactical breakdowns. We'll be having guests over. We'll be just surgically incising through all the matches, and we'll be bringing you the content as we always have. Hope you have a rest of the evening as fine as Brazilians wish to play tonight. Indian subcontinent viewers, I hope you have your alarm clocks aside because this World Cup is going to be a challenge. With that, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Please do like the video. Please do share. Do give me your ideas on the comments as to what segments you would like. Do give me your thoughts on the video, and do give me all your love and support that you always have. Neil, with that final note, bidding you a very happy rest of the evening. Enjoy the season of the greatest in the world, that is the World Cup.